It's a beautiful day, guys. Coyote Works here. I'm heading out on another adventure, and this time I got Matt in tow with me again. So he's back there a mile or two behind me. So we're heading out for a couple of days. I want to get back into kind of a rough piece of country, and this is working out really good because this is a piece of country that I generally wouldn't go solo into just because the roads are so rough in there. So I've got Matt with me, which means I've got an extra rig, and I'm going to take advantage of it by trying to get back into this country. Now, one of the things back in here that I really want to see is an old homestead that's supposedly still standing. So I don't know if we'll make it to the homestead today. We've got a couple of hours and some rough trails to get to. But before the end of this trip, you guys are going to get to see one of the last remaining homesteads still standing in Crook County. So the trails will get a little rugged going up in there, and the only real risk that we're looking at is the potential for rain. So you'll see there's a couple of stretches of that trail that are just not going to be good if they get wet. So cross your fingers and pray for no rain.
I'll pray for no rain, and thank God that we both have great tires.
Copy that. And do you have a tow strap with you?
I actually have a nice heavy tow rope that was sitting in my storage unit, so I grabbed it and threw it in the back.
Awesome. And I've got a tow strap and some shackles and stuff too, so I doubt we'll need it, but it's nice that we have between the two of our tow straps, we should have a pretty good length.
Yeah, between the two of us, I think we'll be pretty good.
So I get a lot of questions on my channel about why don't I do this, that, and the other to my rig, you know, why don't I put 35s on it, 37s on it, lift it, things like that. And one of the things that I think is really cool is, like, in this day and age, some of the stock rigs and how capable they really are. So I'm running a stock Rubicon Recon. The only thing that I've done to this is put a little bit larger set of tires on it, and behind me I've got Matt, and he's in his Toyota Tacoma, and the same deal. He's just put a little bit better tires on it. So we're going to go through some pretty rough country on this trip, and some of it might even be kind of pushing the limits of a stock rig. I'm coming to a cattle gate here, and I get a little bit of PTSD kicking in every time I come to a cattle gate, since that's where I burned my last Jeep down at. In my opinion, the single most important modification to make to a rig that you're going to go on extended trail exploration with and get into some rougher country is the tires. So you might be able to do pretty well with a stock vehicle with good ground clearance, but the first thing that I would do is put a really good set of tires on it. Something that has a good strong sidewall, can hold up to rocks, things like that. At least out in this country where I'm at, having that puncture resistance is really important. A lot of stock tires just will not hold up out in this country. Alright, so here's where we start heading up into the rougher trail. So right here, this gets really steep. It never looks as cool on the camera as it is in real life, but we're just stopping for a pit stop and check our gear. We may need lockers up this hill, I'm not sure, but we've got a pretty good pull out of here. Well, we're working our way farther and farther up in here, and I think, or at least I'm hoping, we're past the area where all the hunters are. Got a couple more little canyons to go through, and we'll get up in the area where I'm thinking we're going to camp tonight. It's about 1 o'clock, so we still got about 5 hours of light left, which I'm pretty stoked about. So you guys see there's a bald butte right up in front of us. So right at the base of those cliffs up there is where Matt and I are going to camp tonight. But the homestead that I want to find is on the other side of that butte. So we still got some miles to go. Not a ton of miles, maybe like 3-4 more miles to our campsite, but they're going to be pretty rough miles. And then a couple more miles past that to go find that old homestead site. Oh,
There she is.
freaking amazing. We're just rolling up. Oh, I can see an old stone fence here on my right. And we're just rolling up on the homestead. Wow, there's 2 buildings. Oh, this is so cool. 2 buildings at least standing. Oh, there's an old root cellar up the hill. The spring right here. God, what a cool spot.
Nothing that won't buff out.
This would have been their view out their front yard, looking right down into that little meadow. This is pretty incredible. Yeah, it's seen some use in some recent years. Looks like it's been used as a hunting camp or a cow camp. There's some little bit newer trash and stuff here. But this thing was built in the late 1800s and it's still standing. Very few of these old homesteads that are still standing from that era. And I can see some newer wood in here. It's been upgraded over time. Had some cabinets built. There's some plywood in. So it was probably used as a ranch, probably clear up until the 20s or something like that. And then I bet intermittently as a cow camp, sheep camp, and then potentially, I'm sure it's been used by a hunting camp. So we're going to walk around and see if we can find any more cool stuff around here. Oh guys, I'm beyond stoked that Matt and I made it to this. I've been wanting to get here for years. Like I said, I've actually seen it once when I was really young. My dad brought me up here and I've been wondering for quite a few years if this thing was still standing. So, but just amazing. There's a spring over there. You can see down over there where Matt's kicking around, there's a spring. So this was just an awesome setting for an old homestead. Little meadows down below it. Just amazing to think of somebody living out here. Well, I don't know if you want to stand down underneath the side of it. That thing's leaning a little bit.
One more good snow and that might come down.
I agree. Yep. Oh, this is an old piece of equipment. Wow, check that out. Wooden spoked rims.
That is so cool. Oh my goodness.
This old corral, hand-hewn posts and logs, axe cut poles on here. And then I'm guessing that was some kind of a barn right there. Alright, so we checked out the homestead, kicked around there for an hour or so, explored another little side road out. Yeah, there was stuff all over in here. There's some more fence and stuff out there. They probably penned up some cattle. Yeah, I bet they homesteaded this whole plateau out here. We found a couple of Indian artifacts out here too. So, of course, there was a spring up here, and out here in the desert, wherever there was a water source, there were Native Americans around it. So it's 3:45 or so. So we're going to start working our way back around over to where we were thinking about camping. It gets dark now around 6 o'clock. It's pretty dark by 6:15, 6:20. So we're going to head around, try to find a spot to camp before there's a cool place that's a site of another old homestead that we're hoping to camp at. And we want to get there with a little bit of time before dark because we'll want to build a fire pit and stuff like that. And the views from up here are just incredible. We're crossing up over this big saddle. We're coming up over the shoulder of a big butte, and we'll drop down on the other side to where we're going to camp. And the views from up here are just incredible. We can see for miles and miles and miles in all directions. Can see up in front of me this grove of aspen trees growing on the hillside. So wherever you see these aspen trees, there's usually water not very far below the surface. And on this side of these buttes, there's a whole series of springs up here. So there's a lot of these little aspen groves. All right, well, we've got just this beautiful place to camp. We're backed up underneath this big rim rock, this big knob. We're down in a little bit of a low spot, so we've got some protection from the wind, and we're camped on the side of this late 1800s homestead up here. So Matt's setting up his rig up there. I'm going to pop up my rooftop tent real quick and get settled in down here. So, as you guys know, I'm running the Free Spirit Recreation 55 High Country Series rooftop tent, and I'm running the tri-layer insulated version since we're coming into winter. But I just wanted to show you guys real quick. So I have an awning coming off of the driver's side of my Jeep, and what I don't like to do is remove the cover all the way off the tent. So I leave this side buckled, and then I just roll it up. Now, if I want to deploy the awning, I can. It stays up there out of the way, and it also shaves a few seconds off of setting it up and tearing it down. Setting this thing up's a cinch. I'm just gonna reach up here and grab the ladder and just gently lift it up, and I'll pull it down. So that's it. My bedroom's set up. All my bedding's already up in there. So now we'll probably go start digging a fire pit and well, not digging a fire pit, stacking up some rocks for a fire pit and getting our camp ready. So we're setting up our little community cooking area back here tucked up against these trees because the wind keeps switching direction. So we've just been gathering rocks. Oh, Nice. Matt's got a couple of good ones.
Yeah.
If we just had like 30 more of those, man, that would be awesome.
Kind of what I was hoping. Then we could heat these up and maybe set something on them.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you're thinking. So first priority, get the fire pit stacked. We probably have about an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes of dark left. I'm gonna go help Matt gather some rocks and then we'll get this fire pit built. All right, I think we got ourselves a fire pit.
Yeah, I think we have a brilliant looking fire pit.
Teamwork.
Yeah, I think that turned out incredible.
And we're probably not, as long as that wind doesn't pick back up, we're not gonna need too big of a fire, so.
No, we got a little block from this side, and then this is gonna do a pretty good job, and then trees, and I think we picked a pretty good spot, my friend.
Yeah. All right, now the fun part, wood.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be easier than the rocks.
I think so too. All right, so as I was walking around gathering firewood, I found this sign, and it's pretty cool looking at the writing on it. I'm thinking it's like maybe from the 1960s or something, but it says, I think this sign was made for me. It says, private property, adventure unlimited, members only. Trespassers will be prosecuted, property patrolled, which I'm sure is a lie, or at least it doesn't apply anymore. And then it says, for information, contact P.O. Box, and there's a P.O. Box on here. So I'm thinking that when I get home, I'm going to send a letter to that P.O. Box and see what comes back. And before any of you guys freak out, just know that this is not private property up in here, but it was at one time. About, I think it was about 10 years ago, or maybe it's even been longer than that. This used to all be private land up here. And then the BLM did a land exchange with one of the local ranches out here and exchanged this land up in here for a bunch of other land south of the highway. So this ended up being all in public hands, which is pretty cool because that means it's only been public land for that many years. And so there hasn't been access to it for a long time before that, and it's pretty rough country getting up in here. I actually almost pulled the trigger and I was going to get that DJI Mavic Pro.
How you liking that new knife, or is that the one you always, is that different than the one you carry?
No, this is a new.
That's that new.
This is the Coyote Works survival knife.
Oh man, she's a beauty. I like the weight.
We got a nice little fire going here. I think we're getting ready to go grab our stoves and probably just do a mountain house meal for dinner tonight. It's getting dark, but we got camp set up just in time. Got our rooftop tents up and everything, and this is just an amazing spot right here. Got a good pile of firewood. The nice thing about having a reflective wall like this is you don't need much of a fire. You set up a wall and that kind of keeps the heat back behind that wall a little bit, keeps the wind from carrying all of your heat away from the fire. All right, I'm getting a little water boiling here. I'm gonna try a different meal. I'm gonna try one of these backpackers pantry meals. Oh, I got a video coming up on this, but this is the first official Coyote Works survival knife. Chad made, this is actually the prototype that Chad made over at CK Knife and Tool. I've been testing it for about 3 weeks now, and I think we finalized it. So if you guys are interested in learning more about this knife, you can check out the CK Knife and Tool YouTube channel or ckknifeandtool.com, and then I'll have a full video coming up on this thing soon too. Gonna have a little stroganoff sauce with egg noodles and mushrooms. We were on sale somewhere, so I bought a few different ones of these to try, so we'll see how they compare to the old standby mountain houses. But it's pretty amazing, this country that we're up in, and we came a lot of rough miles, and Matt's running just a stock 4-wheel drive Toyota Tacoma, and it was a little rough, but he didn't have any trouble getting up in here. And so it's really amazing, without doing a lot of modifications to your rig, the areas that you can get to. Just running these Jeep trails up here, and we're up in this system of buttes that we can literally probably drive around for days up here. I'm kind of half thinking about maybe doing the next Coyote Works group open invite overland trip up in this area, just because there's so many different trails to explore out from here. Well, we had a good dinner, and we just had a few raindrops, so we were sitting here just kind of praying that we don't get any more rain. If we got some rain, that could definitely cause problems for us getting out of here. So we're just kind of waiting for the fire to die down, and it's not super late, but we had a long day of exploring.
Yeah, definitely seems later than it is.
Yeah. We saw a lot of country today. We covered a lot of miles. We drove 4.5, almost 5 hours on these rocky Jeep trails up in here.
Well, we really worked these rigs good.
Yeah, yeah. That Toyota hung in there.
Yeah,
No
good.
issues.
Yeah, I was really happy with it.
Yeah.
Oh, got that on video. Holy cow.
All right, so that's something you guys got to watch out for is these
Lesson learned.
rocks that we use for our firewall are a little bit porous. We got that all kind of under control, so we're just going to let the fire burn down a little bit and then probably hit the hay for the night and do some more exploring tomorrow.
Yeah.
I got my pods for my ready light hung up, just got all settled in, got my clothes laid out for tomorrow and getting ready to settle down. But this tri-layer tent is actually really a pretty big improvement over a single wall tent. The quilting in it definitely keeps it quite a bit warmer in here. I'm just hanging out in here getting ready for bed, and it's probably a good 10, maybe 15 degrees warmer in here than it was outside. So it's cold outside, but it's actually pretty comfortable inside here. Well, I had a great day exploring today, but I'm going to kick back and read a little bit and then drift off to sleep so we can hit some more miles tomorrow. So that's all for today, guys. Coyote Works out. I'll see y'all at breakfast. Good morning, guys. It didn't ever rain or anything, but it got really stormy last night. So I'm just making a little Starbucks via here this morning. A little instant coffee mixed in some cold water. The breath of life. That's what I call that. Top of the morning to you guys. Shake her up. That's what I call the breakfast of champions. We got a fire going and we're going to get some coffee and some breakfast in us and probably not kick around camp too long. Go out and hit some more trails. Spend most of the day out on the trails.
That'll be real nice.
That's what I'm thinking. It's a long trip up in here, so it'd be cool to spend some time while we're here exploring. There's just a whole network of roads and trails that go everywhere up in here and a lot to explore.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a good day.
It's just beautiful out here this morning. You got Matt's truck back up there and his rooftop tent. We're just at the base of these beautiful cliffs up here. Got my tents back down there below. You can see the remnants of the old barn and homestead, and they improved this spring here. There's actually some water seeping in through here, and just a beautiful setting. Well, it looks like we might get a few raindrops, so I'm going to pop my rooftop tent down really quick. Alright, rooftop tent's down. Just actually got a couple of things up at camp. Alright, so Matt's got his tent buttoned up, I've got mine buttoned up, and we actually just set up a pretty simple camp, all we really grabbed was our chairs and our food boxes over here. So we'll button this stuff up and then hit the trail. The sun's kind of peeking in and out, so hopefully we'll get some good views. That's it, all packed up. Yep, everything's looking good. All right, we're rolling out of camp. We're gonna backtrack a little ways along the last stretch of trail that we came up to camp on, and then we're gonna try to find a different way out of here, because the way we came in is fine when it's dry, but if we were to get a little bit of rain or anything, that would be impassable. So we're gonna do a little bit of exploring and a little bit of adventuring today to try and scout out some alternate routes. But man, this is just freaking amazing country in here. We're up where all these high meadows and springs are, and just really cool. All right, so we're gonna stop right around some springs up here and look around and see if we can find any sign of any Native American activity around there. And they should have been hunting and maybe even out on these plateaus gathering roots, and probably hang out around there for about an hour or so, and then work down into another area where we're going to try to find Matt some petrified wood. This is pretty cool. Matt and I just stumbled across, this is actually a grinding stone, or I've heard them called a metate. But this is an area where the natives would have gathered roots up here. Oh, look at this. Here's a nice flake of obsidian right here by it. So they probably camped in here by these springs, gathered roots, and pounded them into, they made kind of a flour out of them. And this is one of their grinding stones. After an hour or so walking around that spring, we ended up with a pretty nice handful of artifacts. Of course, we left them laying there for future generations to enjoy, and then we continued on the hunt for some petrified wood. And again, after a few hours of hiking around, we had a nice little pile of petrified wood for Matt. After enjoying the spoils of our hunt for a little bit, it was time to select a few of the choicest pieces to take home with us as souvenirs, and then get back on the trail and finish out the rest of our adventure. Well, we're slowly working our way back towards home. We've got a couple more miles of these Jeep trails, and then we'll get on a fairly well-traveled gravel road. But so I just looked down at my odometer, and we've done about 84 miles off-road. Man, it's just been an awesome trip. The weather turned out great. The sun came out today. We found some artifacts, found some petrified wood, did a little bit of rock hounding, which was cool. So I don't know if I'll get back with you guys again before the end of this trip, so I enjoyed having you along. Hope you guys enjoyed coming along on the little adventure, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Coyote Works, out.